All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. All thanks and praise are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may His peace and blessings upon His last and final messenger, His family, His companions, and those who follow them until the end of times. Welcome to our virtual open house. Usually we like to have this event in person, but obviously because of the circumstances that we're going through right now, that is not possible. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings life back to normal as quickly as possible. So welcome everyone. The purpose of today's open house is twofold. First and foremost, we want to briefly speak about the importance, the significance, the virtues and blessings of seeking knowledge, particularly knowledge that brings us closer to Allah, brings us closer to our Creator, and increases our love for the Prophet ﷺ, as well as introducing everyone to our seminary program. And our seminary program is actually unique in that it offers 4 successive tracks or 4 successive academic tracks. There's a 1-year diploma in Arabic and Islamic studies. There's a 2 years associate's degree in Arabic and Islamic studies. Then there's a 3-year bachelor's in Arabic and Islamic studies, and a 5-year master's degree in Islamic tradition and Islamic law and prophetic tradition. And all of these 4 tracks, they're interconnected, they go together, and basically you move from one to the next. So for today's program, we're going to have some of our current students share their experiences with all of you. And we're going to start off with Shayan, who is currently in his 2nd year here at the seminary, and he will be receiving his associates inshallah in Arabic and Islamic studies. And he's also currently a student at UCR. So he is a good example of someone who's balancing between both and juggling between both. So I'm going to go ahead and allow him to speak about the importance of seeking knowledge, inshallah. So go ahead and start.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. So inshallah today the topic of my speech will be the importance of seeking and pursuing Islamic knowledge. And I'd like to begin off by sharing with you guys a personal story. So, IOK Seminary, we do a lot of field trips throughout the year. We go camping, we go to restaurants, we just hang out. And so one time I remember we went to Long Beach. It was early in the morning. No one was there except for a few fishermen. And so we were at Long Beach, and one of the seminary guys, he loves fishing. And so he brought his fishing rods, and we decided to hit the pier and fish. And keep in mind, I've tried fishing many times throughout my life, but with very little success. So, we go on the pier, we start fishing. In the beginning, we had like a few guys, we caught maybe 1 or 2 fish. And then people started rolling in, and our teachers started coming. And let me tell you, they brought the fishes with them. Our teachers came, we handed them the fishing rods, and they started to catch so many fish left and right. Our teachers were dropping in their lines for 30 seconds, and they were getting not 1 fish, but 2 fishes on the same line. And people were coming and walking on the pier, and they were amazed to see how many fishes we were getting, because all the other fishermen, they had been there way before us, and they had maybe gotten 1 or 2 fish, but we had caught nearly like 15, 20 fishes. And, that day, I realized the blessing of those who have ilm, who have knowledge of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yafqahuhu fid din." That whoever Allah wants good for, He gives them a deep understanding of Islam. They know the halal, the haram, they know the Quran, the tafsir, the aqidah, they know hadith, and the explanation of the hadith. And you and I might be thinking, but I already know the halal and haram, I already know how to pray, I know how to how to make wudu. I know what to eat, what not to eat. Why know more? And let me tell you something. Never be content with how much you know. One of the scribes of the Messenger of Allah, his name was Hanzala. And Hanzala, Sahaba of the Prophet, one day he started announcing in front of everyone about himself, saying that Hanzala has become a hypocrite. Hanzala has become a hypocrite. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhum, he was there and he asked Hanzala, he said, "Oh Hanzala, what are you saying?" And Hanzala said, "Oh Abu Bakr, when I'm with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he reminds me of Jannah. He reminds me of hellfire. And I feel as if I'm seeing it with my own very eyes. But when I'm with my family, when I'm with my business, when I'm with my friends, most of these things slip out of our minds." So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, "By Allah, I experienced the same thing. By Allah, I experienced the same thing." Look at the discontent the Sahaba felt about their awareness of Allah. This is discontent Sahaba were about the discontent the Sahaba felt about their awareness of Allah. And keep in mind that the Sahaba were the best generation to ever walk in the face of this earth. They were the people who knew everything about Islam. They knew about the verses in the Quran. They knew about the causes of the verses, the revelation of the verses. They knew how the Prophet talked, how he walked. Yet they were not content about what they knew. And so why are we so content with how little we know? We should never be content with how little we know and how little we know. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Seek knowledge from the cradle till the grave," meaning never stop pursuing Islamic studies. Allah says in the Quran, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, that are the ones who know equal to the ones who do not know? Can you and I confidently say that we're from the ones who know, the ones that Allah is talking about? By Allah, we cannot say that. But we should try to make an effort to be amongst those people. And brothers and sisters, today is one of the last 10 days of Ramadan. And the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba used to pray all night in these last 10 nights, to the point that their feet would get swollen. And it was said that the Sahaba, they would, after Isha prayer, go into sujood to start to make dua. And until Fajr time, you could come for Fajr prayer and you'll see them making sujood, reciting the same dua. This time they were crying. They prayed all night making dua. But we can't do that. We can barely pray Taraweeh. So how did they do that? What special quality did they have that we do not have? And the answer to that is Iman, Taqwa, and awareness of Allah. They had a fear of Allah. And how did they get that fear of Allah? Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء, that from amongst Allah's servants, only the ones who have knowledge fear Allah. So if you want to be able to concentrate during prayer, if you want to be more aware of Allah, then seek knowledge. If you want to taste the sweetness of Iman, then seek knowledge. Because Allah will raise your ranks not only in this life, but even in Jannah. Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, يَرْفَعُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ, that Allah raises the levels of those who believe and are given knowledge. Allah raises the levels of those who believe and are given knowledge. And one last thing I want to mention, another beautiful story. The Prophet ﷺ, he once told one of his companions, Abu Dhahr, he said, "Oh Abu Dhahr, if you go and learn one verse of the Quran, it will be more rewardable for you than praying 100 rak'ahs of the optional prayer." 100 rak'ahs of the optional prayer. And if you go learn a chapter of the knowledge, it is more rewardable for you than praying 1,000 rak'ahs of the optional prayer. SubhanAllah. So on that note, brothers and sisters, I urge you to seek the knowledge of the deen. And I remind you that seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ, that seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. Now, if you have any questions for me, you could private message Rimsha Said and she'll send it to me. Also, just to let you know, I'm someone who's interested in pursuing medical school after my undergrad. So if you're someone with similar circumstances who wants to pursue something similar, and you have concerns about how to balance pre-med studies and an IOK seminary, then feel free to ask me. وصلى اللهم على نبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. جزاك الله خير. And actually, one more thing, Kashan, our weekly halaqas enough?
Well, assalamu alaikum. Well, Shan asks a very good question. Are weekly halaqas enough? But before I begin to answer this question, let me introduce myself. My name is Kashan Saeed. I'm a UCI student studying computer science. And also I'm a second year seminary student. So before we begin, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In order to answer this question, I'm going to have to tell you or remind you about 2 or 3 of the hadiths that our Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam narrated to us about what happens to those who are learned, what happens to those who seek knowledge. And the first one is that whoever follows the path in pursuit of knowledge, in pursuit of ilm of what? Ilm of Islam, Allah will make the path of paradise easy for him. Why though? Because if you go out of your way to learn about Allah, then He's going to go out of His way to make things easy for you. And not only that, but it was narrated from the Prophet ﷺ when he said that the angels, they lower their wings for the one who seeks knowledge, for the one who seeks it. And can you imagine that there's these angels flying around and they see a student of knowledge, so they stop flying and they come to be with him, to join him. And did you know that when the angels descend somewhere, that's sakina? And you know what sakina is? It's deep, deep inner peace, satisfaction, contentment that descends with them. And could you imagine that something so pure as an angel, something so righteous as an angel, someone or something that spends all day worshiping Allah will come and they're gonna join and be with the person who's seeking knowledge. And not only that, they lower their wings, like the way that a bird lowers its wings for its child to protect it. The angels will lower their wings to protect the student of knowledge. So don't fear harm when you go out on this path. And he also narrated that everything in the sky and in the earth, from the ant underground and the fish underwater, they send their du'as upon the person of knowledge. Every single being in the world is going to send their du'as to this person. Do you know why? Because a person of ilm, knowledge, benefits himself, but others as well. His very existence, his actions benefit everyone around him. So much so that the good spreads all around the earth and even to the animals. And that's why the animals pray to Allah for him. And lastly, the Prophet said the superiority of the moon is like the superiority of one who has knowledge, or the one who just worships and does good deeds. It's like the superiority of the moon over all the stars in the sky. For those of you guys who watch the night sky, who like looking at the moon, you're gonna notice that when the moon is there, its light is so bright that it outshines the stars. And that's the status of the people of knowledge, the people who pursue knowledge in Allah's eyes. But there's one thing though, that these hadiths are for a specific person. They're for the person who goes and he learns. And he's consistent in his learning. He takes a serious path, because how are you going to learn if you don't take a serious path? For most of us, we're content with our weekly halaqas, weekly tidbits of knowledge here and there. But this is not going to be sufficient if you want to be among these people. Because in order to learn Islam properly, you need to take a serious curriculum. One that'll teach you the foundations and even the dry things. And it'll give you a holistic view of Islam. And not only that, but when you attend a serious place, you study and you review. But when you attend a weekly halaqah or a conference now and there, you don't review, so you forget. You know how funny would it be if I told you I became an engineer by listening to a few lectures here and there, but never actually practicing it? Or even if I did practice it, practicing it a little bit, or never actually studying my knowledge. You would laugh at me. But how can you call yourself learned if you don't do the same thing? So the main question is, so why then a serious path? We know the weekly halaqas aren't enough, but why something like the seminary program? Because a serious curriculum will build a proper foundation, give you a holistic view of Islam. Not only that, but you'll make relationships with the shuyukh there. And you know, the Prophet's always made a dua, Ya Allah, make me with those who are righteous, those who are good companions. And what better place is there than a place where people come to learn ilm, to find good companions? Not only that, but a serious curriculum will teach you Arabic. What did Allah say when He first revealed to the Prophet ﷺ? He said, Iqra. And how can you reflect and understand the Quran on a deep level if you don't understand Arabic? This is why you need a serious curriculum, a serious program. And how are you going to teach your kids Islam if you don't have it internalized fully and deeply, and you don't have a proper understanding of it either? So the next question is, but I'm busy right now. I'll do it later. Maybe when I'm older. If I'm in college right now, I'll do it after college. The question is, when are you ever going to become less busier? If you're in college right now, then you're going to graduate and you'll have a job. You'll work 8 hours a day. It'll be tough to do it then. Tougher than it is now. If you have a job, then later is going to be when you're going to be married. How are you going to do it then? It's going to be tougher than when you had a chance when you had a job. If you're married, how are you going to do it later when you have kids? You know how busy that gets. If you have kids that are small, then it'll be harder to do it later when your kids are older and they require attention and time and someone to talk to them and understand them. The best time is now, because later on in life you're only going to get busier. And lastly, we're so busy right now. Now, what if I lose something on this path to Allah? What if I get bad grades? What if I don't work properly in my job? You know, I'm busy. And it's true, we are busy. You're always going to be busy. Remember this one hadith, that when a person wakes up in the morning and the first thing that he remembers is Allah, Allah will take all his matters of that day and group them together and give it to him. He'll make it easy for him to do everything he needs to do. But when a person wakes up in the morning and the first thing he remembers is the things of his dunya, then Allah will take all his tasks and scatter them throughout his whole day. So he spends his whole day after each task. So ask yourself this: do you believe that Allah will do this? Because He says He's going to do it. So what's stopping you from taking a serious path? I'd like to now give the mic to Sheikh Fran Zuberi, the Dean of the IOK Seminary program, for him to let you know more about it. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallahu khairan. Thank you very much, both Shayan and Kashan. They shared with us, the importance and significance and some of the virtues associated with seeking knowledge. Now, what I want to address really quickly is that in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَمَنْ يُؤْتَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives hikmah to whomsoever He wills. And whoever He gives hikmah to, He has indeed given them a lot. He has given them a lot of good. And according to several mufassirun, the word hikmah in this context is referring to al-ilmu nafi'u al-muaddi ila al-amal. It's referring to beneficial knowledge that translates and leads into action. So oftentimes we translate the word hikmah as wisdom. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or most mufassirun, they're mentioning that the word hikmah here is referring to knowledge. And whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants knowledge to, then they have indeed been given a huge, immense blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our faith, our religion, our practice, our belief is supposed to be built upon a solid foundation of knowledge. It is built upon a solid foundation of understanding. That we're not supposed to follow certain beliefs and rituals and practices blindly, or just because that's what we've heard from someone. Rather, our theology, our devotional acts of worship, our practice is supposed to be built upon this really solid foundation of knowledge. And our way of life is intrinsically connected with learning. That from that first moment of revelation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established this very, very powerful connection between Islam and this activity of learning and seeking and gaining knowledge. Because the first words that were revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq." That read, recite in the name of your Lord who created. And qira'ah, recitation and reading, is one of the primary means for us as human beings to learn and increase and deepen our understanding and deepen our knowledge. And from that time until today, our religion has had a very, very powerful, a very strong tradition of learning and teaching. That from the time of the Prophet ﷺ all the way until now, there has always been a community, a group of people that are engaged in this very virtuous, this very blessed activity of learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, learning about the Quran, learning about the Prophet ﷺ and his guidance and his teachings, and then passing that on to their students. And that tradition started from the Prophet ﷺ and carries on all the way until today. And our aspirations and our hopes are to be part of that very unique and very blessed tradition. Because by doing so, we are acquiring and we are taking part in the inheritance of the Prophet ﷺ and all of the other prophets that came before him. The Prophet ﷺ told us that innal anbiya hum warathatul, innal ulama hum warathatul anbiya. That the scholars, the people of knowledge, those who have a deep understanding of this religion, they are the heirs of the prophets. وَإِنَّ الْأَنْبِيَاءَ لَمْ يُوَرِّثُوا دِرْهَمًا وَلَا دِينَارًا. And the prophets, they didn't leave behind gold and silver. They didn't leave behind material possessions. They didn't leave behind wealth. وَلَكِنْ وَرَّثُوا الْعِلْمِ. What they left behind is knowledge. فَمَنْ أَخَذَهُ أَخَذَ بِحَظٍ وَافِرٍ. So whoever acquires this knowledge has indeed acquired something great. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every single Muslim. طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. That seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every single person. So just like we have to pray 5 times a day, just like we fast the month of Ramadan, similarly, seeking knowledge is an obligation as well. And the knowledge that's being referred to in this particular hadith is not all types of knowledge. It is knowledge specifically that brings one closer to their Lord and Creator. One that gives them a better understanding of who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truly is. Knowledge that increases their love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Knowledge that allows them to live their lives in a manner that is pleasing to their Lord and Creator, so that they can earn eternal salvation in the life to come. So keeping all of these virtues and blessings and rewards in mind, and in the objective of keeping this tradition alive, we founded the seminary almost 10 years ago now, right? In 2010. And the main objective, the main purpose of our seminary program is to revive this tradition of learning and teaching, and to become, a pillar of knowledge and a pillar of light here in America, and provide students the opportunity to study and learn and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and learn about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and really immerse themselves in the tradition. But not only understanding the tradition, but also understanding how to interpret it through the lens of the context that we're living in today. So our program is designed to equip our students with these tools, right? That will help them understand the Quran in its native language, right? That will help them understand the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ. That will help them understand the rulings and regulations that are derived from both. That will help them refine their character and hopefully work on their spirituality as well. And we really want to produce the next generation of teachers and scholars and chaplains and youth group leaders and imams who are going to really serve their communities, right? Who are going to serve themselves first and foremost by acting upon that knowledge, and then serve their communities by passing on that knowledge to others as well. And that was one of the main goals and objectives behind the seminary. Now, when I was growing up and when I was in high school and college, there weren't really many options locally to study. Anyone that wanted to further their studies and actually pursue scholarship had to make a very difficult decision of traveling abroad, leaving their family and leaving the comfort of their homes and going and living in a Muslim country for anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 years. And that was only the only option that existed. And I made that difficult decision. All of our faculty made that difficult decision, and we have no regrets whatsoever. We're very happy and we're very content with that decision. But we feel students should not have to make that sacrifice. That both tracks can be pursued at the same time. That you can study Islam at a deep, academic, intellectual level in a structured and formal way while simultaneously pursuing your careers, while being a student at a local university or college as well. You can pursue scholarship and you can aspire to become an alim, a scholar of religion, while also pursuing whatever else you're interested in. Whether it's IT, or you want to go into teaching or psychology, or you want to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, a journalist, whatever it is, whatever field you want to see yourself in terms of your career, you can pursue that, but while simultaneously pursuing a deeper understanding of Islam. And we feel that there is at least a base level of knowledge that every single Muslim has to have. There is a base level of literacy in Islam with respect to theology and worship and Quran and Hadith that every single Muslim should have. And that is really the goal of our one-year certificate. That we give everyone a solid foundation for understanding their religion properly, while teaching them the basic tools of the Arabic language as well. So just really quickly, a little bit about our program. As I mentioned in the intro, we have 4 successive academic tracks. There's a one-year certificate in Islamic and Arabic studies. And the focus of this one-year certificate is to give that foundational level of literacy. So in this 1 year, students will learn the Arabic language, all the tools with respect to grammar and morphology, a very good basis in vocabulary, particularly Quranic vocabulary. So by the end of the year, in terms of Arabic language skills, you will have all the tools needed to start reading books like these in the Arabic language, right? Yourself, with the help of a dictionary, but you'll have the ability and tools needed to do so. You will start understanding the Quran when you're reciting it and when it's being recited. You will understand a very, very good portion of what's being recited. And then in addition to that, you get an introduction to Quranic studies, an introduction to Hadith studies. You go over the main topics of fiqh related to worship and purification. There's a section on tazkiyah, on purification of the soul. So that first year is to build that solid foundation. Then if someone is more interested and they want to increase their knowledge and understanding, and they want to become more fluent in the Arabic language, then they have the option of continuing and pursuing the 2-year associates in Arabic and Islamic studies. And if after 2 years they feel like, you know what, this is enough for me, and I feel like I'm confident, at least for myself in my own practice, I can help people out as well, so be it. But if someone is really motivated and interested, and they want to pursue scholarship, then they want to aspire to be a scholar, then they can go on to the 3-year bachelor's in Islamic and Arabic studies, and then eventually the 5-year master's as well. And as I mentioned, what we really want is for people to do both together. We want people to pursue scholarship, inshallah, to become really grounded in the tradition, but at the same time pursuing their education. And this is not just like a hope or a dream, but it's something that has been done. Alhamdulillah, we had our first graduate class of master's students, our first master's cohort that graduated last year, and all of them were doing university and seminary at the same time. Now, doing so is possible. Is it difficult? Yes. It requires excellent time management skills. It requires focus. It requires dedication. It requires hard work, but it is definitely doable. And with us, we have two of our students who graduated with their masters last year, Mudathir Mayet and Aisha Hussein. They were both students at UCI, and while at UCI, they joined the seminary program. So they were doing both simultaneously. Mudathir graduated from UCI and then started working full-time. And he was still a student in the seminary. And he completed the entire seminary program while going to school, then working full-time, and also memorizing the Quran. And Aisha did something very similar. She was a UCI student. She completed her undergrad at UCI. She started law school. She completed our seminary program. And inshallah, next year she'll be graduating from law school as well. So I believe hearing from them is much better than hearing from me, because you can hear from their experience of how they were able to balance and juggle between all of these things. So please go ahead and share with us your experience and how to really balance between both, inshallah.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone. So just wanted to share some of my experiences in handling seminary, along with a variety of different experiences that I had while I was in that 5-year program. Seminary was always the backbone in so many different phases of my life. My first 2 years of seminary coincided with my last 2 years of undergrad at UCI, where I was a history major. My second 2 years of seminary coincided with when I finished memorization of the Quran, as well as working as a legal assistant and a teacher at IOK. And my last year of seminary coincided with my first year of law school. So I had a lot of different experiences, all within the 5-year span of attending seminary as a full-time student. And one of the things that people ask very often is just, how do you do it? How do you maintain an excellent academic record? How do you maintain a good social life? How do you maintain being a student of knowledge, always studying and as much as you possibly can? And my first answer to this, how do you do it, is I don't do it, right? Allah does everything. And this, if there's one takeaway that I can convey to everyone here, is that studying knowledge, seeking knowledge, being a student of Deen will put barakah in your life that you literally cannot even imagine. And this is something that is hard to explain in tangible terms, in terms of empirical evidence, because it's something that we don't see. It's 100% completely a matter of faith. But it's so important to understand that everything that we have been both able to do in our worldly spheres of life would not have been able to be done as well as they were done if it were not for seminary. We attended college, we got good grades, we did well at our jobs. I was at the top of my class last year in my year 1 of law school, which is infamously the most hardest year of law school. And all of it, I sincerely, honestly believe was 100% because I was dedicating hours of my day every single day to studying Islam. And we know this because there were people that we went to UCI with that were in our major, in our classes, spend more hours in the library than we did. They would spend more time in office hours than we did. They were spending more time studying and doing all these things for education, for their secular education, that we did. And we did less, but it had more barakah in it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped us along that journey. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we, as was discussed earlier, there's so many virtues to seeking knowledge. It's a way to gain Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love and pleasure in a manner that He won't let anything bad happen to you, or He won't let your worldly life go to waste because you are dedicating yourself to His deen. And so, because we are individuals that are dedicating our time to studying Islam, dedicating our time to applying it practically, and now dedicating our time to teaching the deen of Allah, He is taking care of us in ways that we can't even properly express, ways that we can honestly say that we would not have all of these blessings in our lives if we were not dedicating ourselves to the deen of Allah. He will take care of us. He will handle situations for us in ways that simply are not possible for those who only have their focus in life on their secular studies. And so balancing is definitely very extremely difficult, but if you have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on your side, helping you get through it, aiding you and assisting you, helping you study, helping you work, all of those things, then at the end of the day, it is definitely possible. And we're saying it's possible, and as Sheikh Farhan said, it's hard. It's for sure very difficult. But the fact that it is so hard and so difficult just makes it all of that more rewarding. And the skills that you get, not just from the curriculum of seminary, but the skills that you get in terms of time management, in terms of balancing priorities, in terms of making sure that even as busy as you are as an individual, you still make time for family and friends and people that need your help. These are skills that will help you in literally every single aspect of your life. So the skills that you get, like in ancillary manners to seminary, not just the knowledge itself. The knowledge is amazing and it's great. But in addition to the knowledge, you have other skills that you develop as well in terms of the time management and whatnot. And those skills will last you beyond seminary. They'll last you beyond your religious sphere of life. They'll last you in every way that you could possibly think.
Bismillah. So obviously we've seen that aspect of the barakah taking place. But from more of a practical time management thing, I'm going to address this more so as a student and as a full-time engineer. I know there are people that are mothers. I know people that are taking care of children. I know people that are doing other things. And so I won't be able to fully speak on that behalf. But from a time management perspective of how to practically do this, IOK coursework is 20 hours a week, plus the time to study outside of class. If you're going to school, you have around 20 hours of class and plus time to study after that. And then you have any of your extracurricular things and you have time with your family. All in all, that portion is less than 60 hours. That's less than 60 hours. You can go home and straight up, if you want, sleep for a wonderful 8 hours. So that's doable. If you're working 40 hours a week, now you have 60 hours a week plus the other things you have in your day-to-day life. So it's never at a point where it's going to be so overwhelming. Are things going to be compromised? Yes. For example, there were times when we were at IOK, and I remember we would go to class at IOK, and we had a final, like I think at 9 a.m. So we went to class when we were like, okay, this is literally the time it would take to get to UCI if we were to drive at a safe speed, get to UCI, take our final, be the first ones in and out of class, and make it back to IOK for our next session. Sacrifices have to be made. There are times where I had class presentations, I had demos to do to people at school. And so I would come to IOK, I would be live streaming and listening to the material on the way back on my drive to UCI. I would do whatever I needed to do at school. And so I would do whatever I could to do that. There were times where the class, I had to be there. And so I coordinated with the teachers, hey, I'm literally not able to come into class today. I will live stream it if I can, but I'm going to have to watch the recording later in the evening because my schedule today just doesn't work that way. And I just can't. And so the teachers are there and they're willing to help you and they're willing to coordinate, right? We want to be the best students, but if there are exceptions from time to time, that's okay. That's okay. And the other main thing is, as long as these things are being done with devotion and being done wholeheartedly, then you're going to see the fruits in both aspects. For example, like before I started IOK, I wasn't on the dean's list. I somehow started IOK, and at UC I was on the dean's list. Before I started IOK, I wasn't getting internships. After I started IOK, I got full-time offers, right? And so it's a struggle. There are going to be challenges. There's going to be difficulties. But in terms of time allotted, right? 20 hours for school and 20 hours for IOK, that's a 40-hour workday. If you expect to work full-time, that is what it'll be. If you are working full-time at 40 hours and you have school and you have IOK for 20 hours, that's 60 hours. If you have a rigorous job, 60 hours is a normal workday. And with full enough time to actually come home and spend time with your family. And there's going to be times where you're going to have to really, really, really grind. And at what point in your life don't you have to really grind? It's time management. You have a relationship with your teachers. You have friends. You can study with one another. You can talk to one another. You can exchange notes. It's a very conducive environment to helping you grow and learn and do everything you need to do.
Jazakallah khair. We have with us Ahmed Bibi, who is in the second year of the program. He's going to be completing his associate's degree this year at the seminary, and he's also graduating from college this quarter, inshallah, this semester. And he also runs a full-time business, Shifa Honey. So I'm going to have Ahmed go ahead and share his experiences with us as well. He's someone who's balancing, mashallah, multiple things. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I appreciate you introducing me. Assalamu alaikum to everyone else. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. I want to start off by thanking Shayan and Kashan for giving us a very well-prepared reminder that was both engaging and thought-provoking. Sheikh Farhan, I want to thank you for being such a prime example for the students. You have like the best leader qualities. And please forgive us for our shortcomings as students. You know, we make a lot of mistakes sometimes. I also want to thank Aisha and Mudathir for being prime examples of students who actually went through the program and succeeded, honestly, like top of the line, right? You can't get better than these two students as role models for students to look up to. In my experience, as Chef Farhan introduced, I do run a business, and I'm a student not just at IOK, but alhamdulillah, I actually just graduated from Cal State Fullerton with my bachelor's in marketing. What's it called? When it comes down to my experience, I personally want to talk to the person who's not sold on being a seminary student, or maybe not even sold on the deen, right? I want to talk to the person who is in a what feels like maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe I have a long list of mistakes that holds me back from even thinking about becoming a student of knowledge. I want to talk to the person who feels like maybe I come from a background that, you know, just holds me down. To be honest, this is not the state of mind that a Muslim should have, right? You should be way more optimistic about your future, because wanting to be a seminary student, wanting to be a person who studies the deen is actually almost comes from like a selfish place where you just want something better for yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I joined IOK, right? You go to school because you want a good job, you want to make money. Valid reasons, right? But you know there's more things to life, right? You know there are things after death. So what are you going to do about preparing for that, right? You thought about these things. We've all thought about them, right? We all have a long list of mistakes. We all have issues, right? But when it comes down to wanting something better for yourself, you can't hold back on that. And that's what being a seminary student at IOK is all about. It's about wanting a better future for yourself in this life and in the next life, right? Not just financially, but spiritually. And IOK is the best environment for this. Why? Because when actually on the contrary, whenever you would think that when it comes down to these types of like so-called religious environments, you think everyone's judgmental. This is contrary, right? To the actual reality of IOK's environment. It is going to welcome you with open arms, right? No matter how much baggage you bring, IOK is going to accept you, and it's going to walk you through life. It's going to help you out. It has the best teachers you can ever ask for, literally residing in Southern California. I honestly, feel bad for other states in America that don't have institutions like IOK, because it's much more difficult for them. They don't have this environment. But for us over here in Southern California, literally such a blessing, right? You have mentors that will act like fatherly figures, motherly figures, guiding you, only wanting the best for you, right? They will encourage you to want good for yourself more than you wanted it for yourself. This is the type of experience that I've had at IOK. Always looking for a brighter future, and that's both combined for the benefits in this life and the next life. And this is personally my experience with IOK. It is definitely a tough ride. It requires dedication. It requires, um, some discipline on your end, right? Waking up early in the morning, literally one of the hardest things to do. But when you do it, as like Aisha and Mudatha were explaining, literally Allah facilitates it for you. It becomes easy, like without even knowing. You start to wonder, how did I actually manage to do this? And that is the experience that you will have at IOK. So if you want something better for yourself, right, don't ever put yourself down, right? Always assume, like, I want to have the best future. Always think about that. And being a seminary student is a part of having that good future for yourself. And that's what I want everyone to understand in terms of my experience as a student for IOK. For those of you who feel like maybe I'm not qualified, no, you are qualified. Regardless of everything, become a seminary student, put your effort, and honestly, everything will work out just great. And that's all I really wanted to say. And thanks a lot again to everyone. And thanks for giving me this opportunity for sharing my part. I appreciate you all.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you for that very beneficial and inspiring experience. May Allah always reward you, bless you. Congratulations. I didn't know you're done.
Done, shit. That's it. Thursday, I was doing the last, typing of my final group project essay. Khalas, we're done.
When's commencement?
It's online. June 15th, inshallah.
We can have a social distancing graduation party for you, inshallah.
Absolutely, Sheikh. All you're gonna do is just click on my name, and then it'll pop up. Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. All right, so we have one more of our students, inshallah, who's going to share her experience. Rimsha, who is currently also in the second year. She's completing her associates with us this year, and she's also a student at UCLA. So go ahead. Bismillah, Rimsha.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Farhan, for introducing me. So as you mentioned, my name is Rimsha, and I am a second-year seminary student, and I'm also a second-year undergraduate student at UCLA. And today I wanted to share my journey to joining seminary and how I've been able to balance my religious studies with college. So going into freshman year, I actually had no intention of joining seminary, and it wasn't even something that I had on my radar. And I remember my first week there, RMSA was hosting a bunch of welcome events. And at one of these, I ran into a student named Fatma. And we started talking, and it turned out that she was back then a third-year seminary student. And I remember being so surprised and amazed and thinking to myself, how in the world can she do that? What about her college studies? Aren't those affected? And it never once crossed my mind that this was something that I could do as well. I was a very one-track person. My main goal at the time was that I had to get good grades because I wanted to go to law school. And I couldn't really have something that was distracting me from that. And I did have somewhere in the back of my mind that, yes, I want to pursue higher Islamic education, but my excuse for that was always later when I have the time for it, later when I'm not so busy. So flash forward, the year passes by, and it's now the summer after my freshman year. And this summer, IOK was hosting a graduation ceremony for its seminary students. And so my family and I attended. And the way the ceremony worked was that the fifth-year students, which included Aisha and Mudassir, who spoke earlier, they were all giving speeches about their own journey to gaining Islamic knowledge and how the past few years in seminary had been like for them. And as I was listening to their speeches, it struck me, weirdly enough for the first time, and it struck me that all of these students of ilm, all of these students of knowledge, they weren't superhuman or somehow had more time than the rest of us. No, they were people just like you and I. They had school, they had work, they had families, they had responsibilities. And they didn't just happen to find the time to study Islam, they had to make that time. And really the biggest difference between us, between the people who were standing up on that stage and me, was that they had decided that later wasn't going to cut it. And because the only time that we are guaranteed is now, it's the moment that we're standing in right now. And the future, that isn't something that we have a guarantee on. It's only up to Allah. And so realizing all this, and alhamdulillah, with the support of my lovely parents, may Allah grant them both Jannat al-Firdaus, I made the decision to join seminary. But my biggest concern still remained, which was how was I going to balance everything? How was I going to keep up my grades and give time to seminary when it's basically like doing 2 degrees at once? And then I remembered a hadith that my mom had once told me, and you can find it in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, that the Prophet ﷺ said, "You will never leave something for the sake of Allah, but Allah will give you something better in return." And that brings me to my biggest advice, first and foremost to myself, but also for someone who is hesitant about pursuing religious studies, and that is to have trust in Allah. Never think that if you are setting out in His path, if you are setting out for His sake, that He would ever wrong you, that He would ever give you something less in return. And if you're worried about grades, if you're worried about the time commitment, if you're worried about the drive, don't be, because at the end of the day, all of these things are under His control. He is the one who owns all of time, who gives us our grades and who keeps us safe. So don't think that if you set out pursuing the deen, that He will ever let you fall behind in the dunya. And thinking back to the past year since I've started seminary, alhamdulillah, I have seen the blessings of Allah in everything that I've done, in my time, in my grades, and even in opportunities that have just fallen into my lap. And I haven't ever felt that, oh, if I hadn't done seminary, I would have more time to study or to do some activity or to hang out with my friends. And truly, it showed me that if you connect to Allah, He will open up the world for you. So I wanted to start wrapping up so we can inshallah announce the raffle winners and have the Q&A session. But first, I also wanted to talk about carpools. So the drive to IOK, which is just about 40 minutes, an hour from UCLA, was one of my parents' and my biggest concerns. But alhamdulillah, I was blessed enough to find 2 other UCLA students, Fatma and Manal, to carpool with. And honestly, having someone whom you can share the drive with, whom you can talk to, who can encourage each other has been a huge blessing. So if the drive is something that's an obstacle for you, if it's something that is holding you back from attending seminary, we wanted to set up an IOK carpool, inshallah, where we can help seminary students who are from similar areas and similar universities. We can help them connect and figure something out. So if you are interested in finding a carpool, please send me an email, and I'll put that in the chat. It's rimsha@g.ucla.edu. Oh, they put it up on the screen. So you can see my email up on there. So to everyone who is listening, whether you are a student, you are a parent, a working professional, I urge you all to take advantage of this opportunity. Allah has truly blessed us all, and as Shan said, we don't need to leave our homes, our families, or our countries to pursue the study of Islam. Rather, that opportunity is being given to you, it's come to you. And so for those of you who would like to join seminary in the fall, inshallah, we have the link to the application up on the screen. And again, I would highly, highly encourage you all to take this chance and to sign up. So next we have our raffle. So about halfway through the program, we drew 2 names from the Zoom participants. And so, sorry? And so the winners are Hamza Mirza and Hafsa Marani. So you've won a very nice IOK bottle. So if you could email me your full name and mailing address, we will have that shipped to you, inshallah. And that brings us to our Q&A session. So if you have any, so I think throughout the session, people have been putting up questions in the chat box. If you have any, feel free to put them on there. And so we have, if all the speakers could turn on their cameras and join me, inshallah. Okay, so we have a number of questions. So number 1, this is just a general question. It's not for anyone specific. It's, is the program accredited?
All right. Okay, so in terms of accreditation, that is a good question. So one thing to understand is that like seminary studies are very, very different than like your average university study. But despite that, we are still pursuing accreditation by the main accrediting body of universities and colleges here in the West Coast in Southern California, which is WASC. So we are pursuing that. That is a goal that we have. Currently, we are a religious institution, so we are authorized from the state to issue our own degrees and certificates. So we can issue associates, bachelors, and masters, and we're pursuing the accreditation from that association of colleges. And our coursework and the things that we teach and the texts that we use, they're recognized internationally by other renowned seminaries across the Muslim world. So for example, if a student were to study here and for some reason they decided to go abroad later on, that coursework would count for them when they go abroad. Particularly from my alma mater where I graduated from Darul Uloom Karachi, from Jamia Binoria, from Nadwa in India. So there's recognition for it, and you get this degree from here. And also some of the coursework has been accepted for units at colleges here as well. So in a nutshell, we're not accredited yet, we're pursuing it, but the coursework can still go towards some credits, inshallah.
Our second, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Farhan. Our second question, and I think any of our alumni and student panelists can answer this. How did you balance university studies and IOK? Did you have any tips? What difficulties did you face? And if you were able to balance university schoolwork, extracurriculars, and IOK, how were you able to do that?
So in terms of balancing, realize, like I mentioned earlier, school is a set amount of time. You know, whether it's UCI, UCLA, UCR, Cal Poly Pomona, any school, university you're going to, you're not there for 60 hours. If you're taking anywhere between 16 to 24 units, that is literally like 15 to 25 hours worth of class. 25 hours worth of class, let's say you're taking even 24 units. Plus you're going to study outside of class, add 10 hours onto that. So now you have 35 hours. Seminary is equivalently also 20 hours, plus add 5 hours of studying outside of class. So now you're literally at, 40, 50 hours. That is a regular day. That is literally like a regular work day. If you can start at 7:30 a.m. and you'll be done at, 5:30 p.m., maybe 6:30 p.m. That is actually not even like 5:30, 6:30 p.m. That is easy and doable. Yes, the commute will take a toll. Yes, managing and balancing your schedule, that is a difficult part. And so do your best to, if you plan on coming in as a first year student, or you are going from first year to second year, right? Our biggest concern when picking classes wasn't what classes, it's how can we get both our UCI classes to be after our IOK classes. But in terms of time, it's doable. It's other commitments that can become difficult, but it is doable just in terms of looking at the sheer hours you have in a day.
And one of the tips that I wanted to mention was really learning how to prioritize. Like we were saying, that when you're doing seminary, there's also a lot of other commitments that you have in your life. You have seminary, you have your university studies, if you have that going on, you have your family life, you have your friends' social life, and they're important too. So you have to balance and juggle all of these things. But it's important to realize that every single sphere of your life, every single different circumstance that you're in, doesn't need to be at full power 100% every single moment of the time. There are times where you have a final to study for, and then so you might study a little bit less for seminary that night. There are times where you might have an exam for seminary or a presentation, so you might study a little bit less for something else. There are times where a family member may be having a birthday party, your niece or nephew might be having some sort of event that you have to go to, so you will compromise in different situations based on the circumstance. So it's important to realize that every single commitment that you have is not going to be 100% every single moment. Rather, when one commitment requires a little bit more of you, you will give it a little bit more. And when another commitment requires a little bit more of you, then you will give that a little bit more. You don't need to try to balance everything perfectly at every single moment. Some days something will get more, some things another day will get a little bit more.
Jazakallah khair. Our next question, this actually came up a number of times, and I think Sheikh Farhan, you can best answer this, is how does the online learning work, and how are you able to do the lectures and assignments and tests and everything?
Excellent question. So all of our classes are taught live Monday through Thursday from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. So just 4 hours in the morning of live class, and we prefer everyone actually come in and attend class live, but we know everyone has different circumstances and it's difficult to do so. So all of our classes are live streamed as well, right? They're live streamed, so you can watch them live. Sorry.
I'm sorry, your voice went out.
It went out
Your mic
completely?
blew out. Okay, yeah, it's better now.
Okay. All right. So all of our classes are live streamed, so you can watch them live, and they're also recorded and archived, so you can watch them later on. And because of the current circumstances, and the actual campus is closed because of the stay-at-home and shelter-at-home orders and all that fun stuff, everything is fully remote online right now. So all of our classes are online, and it seems like we're probably going to start the academic year online as well. So all of that technology and all of that is in place, and alhamdulillah, it's been pretty smooth so far. I think the students can share their experience with it. But again, preferable, we would like to prefer people to come in person, inshallah, when things open up. But if you're unable to do so, then online is definitely an option that can work, but that requires a little bit more discipline and time management as well.
So we are at 3 o'clock. So if anyone needs to leave, feel free. But we're just going to continue answering some more questions, inshallah. So our next question.
Real quick.
Mhm.
For the first question, sorry, for the first question about how do you manage this, one of the biggest things to do is just try the program for a few months and see how you manage it, and see where you can improve in your managing. And if it turns out to be extremely difficult, it's okay. Perhaps there are better things for you. In regards to the second question, the timing is from. Well, Sheikh Fan can answer the timing question. What are the times for the classes?
Yeah, so the timings again daily is it's Monday through Thursday from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And the reason why we kept it in the a.m. is so that college students can schedule their classes in the afternoons and evenings. I know sometimes that's not possible, and sometimes there's a class that you have to take that might be in the a.m. portion of the day, and we try to be as accommodating as possible, and that's why all our classes are also live streamed and recorded. So if for some reason, if there's some circumstance where you can't make it in person, you can always join the live stream, or you can watch the recording later on. But the actual timing for live class is 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m.
Our next question, and I think again, Sheikh Farhan, you can answer this, is what sort of background do you need to come with? Do you need to know Arabic beforehand? What sort of level should you be at?
Excellent question. So the only prereq would be the ability to read Arabic in terms of like being able to read the Quran. So you're able to recognize the letters and put the letters together, and you can read the Quran at I would say at a beginner level. If you're able to do so, then that is a good place to start. You'll be able to do well in the seminary, inshallah.
Another question we have is how is financial aid determined? And is there usually still an amount of family contribution after aid, which is given?
Good. So we have a policy where we do not turn any student away because they're unable to afford. So we do have a financial aid application. It's part of the application process. So you fill it in, you provide all your information, and based off the information that you provide us, the admin makes the decision on how much financial aid to give. So sometimes it could be complete, fully, like a full ride scholarship type thing, and sometimes it could be a portion. So it really depends on your own personal circumstance, and all of that is determined off of this particular application that we have.
Another question, and this is a bunch of people asked this, is there a minimum age requirement? And also, what sort of age range do you usually see? Do you guys have working professional? Do you have people in graduate degrees? Do you have parents?
Good, excellent question. So preferably, we want high school grads. Right, the program is for anyone that has graduated from high school and is in transition to college or is already in college. So I would say the majority of our students are current college students, and we have the whole variety. So we have people in undergrad, people in grad school. We have full-time mothers, full-time stay-at-home moms as well. So it's a variety, but the majority of students, I'd say the major demographic would be undergraduate students in college, and the minimum age, high school grad.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Another question is, what is the typical class schedule like for seminary?
Okay, so again, the schedule is Monday through Thursday, 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. So as long as you're able to like block off that portion of time daily for at least 4 days a week, you would be able to, inshallah, balance and excel and do well. So that is the actual class time. It's 4 hours for 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. And then for every day of class, like the recommendation is to put at least minimum 1 hour of study. That's the bare minimum. If people do that, they'll be able to, move along and do well. But obviously, the more time and more effort you put, the better you'll do. And for those who really get like that taste and that excitement of knowledge, then they have this zeal, they have this enthusiasm, and they'll put as much time that is required.
Is there a deadline to enroll for the program?
So the deadline to enroll for next academic year is, I believe, the end of July. The end of July, or perhaps maybe the first couple weeks of August. I don't remember the exact date.
Okay. And I think if you click on the link, they should have all that information on there.
Mm-hmm.
The next question is for Shayan, since he is the only pre-med on the panel. But how are you able to balance all that pre-med work with seminary?
Jazakallah khair for asking that question. I think that's a very pertinent question, especially for people interested in pursuing medical school, because we all know it's becoming more and more difficult. And so, so when I first decided to join a seminary, that was the biggest concern I had. How am I gonna balance such difficult classes, at the same time do research, do volunteering, join clubs? How am I gonna manage all of that and get good grades and do seminary? And so, so alhamdulillah, having done it for a year, I can say that Allah puts so much barakah in your time that's unbelievable. Like I've seen my grades have not decreased at all this year. Inshallah, actually, I was taking like OChem, I was taking all the hardest classes that one takes for pre-med during the undergrad, and I was doing perfectly well in them. So, doing seminary did not at all decrease my studies or have an effect in all the activities I was doing as part of my pre-med. And also, so some advice I'd like to give is, number one, try to take no more than 3 classes in college. Try to keep it kind of light, because at the end of the day, the seminary degree that you're going to be getting is another degree. It's going to take a lot of work. So try to keep your college classes light. Try to take no more than 3 classes during the year, and then take classes over the summer as well. So that's number one. And also, as Sheikh Farhan mentioned, try to block off the morning time from 7:30 to like 12 for IOK, and try to take all your classes later on in the day, such as like in the afternoon or the evening. But if that does not happen, then don't worry, because you could watch the recording. Many times throughout this year, I had classes that might start at 11 o'clock, so I had to leave 30 minutes early at 10:30 to attend my class at 11. So try to take that portion. Try to not register for classes in that morning time, and also just put your faith in Allah and just try it. Because for my experience, I have not lost anything in my as like a pre-med. I'm still doing research. I'm still doing volunteering. I'm still doing fine in my grades. So Allah does help a lot. Okay, so Allah helps. So just try your best, make the effort, inshallah, and Allah will help you.
We have another question, which is, I was wondering whether summer classes are also an option to help reduce the workload during the typical school year. Sheikh Farhan.
So because we work more like a cohort than like having like individual courses, kind of hard to offer like courses in the summer that will help you like accelerate your studies. So that's not necessarily an option. But what we do have is, at least for the first year of the program, you can take those classes in the part-time seminary. So in the part-time seminary, which is the courses are offered on Saturdays, live in person, or you can take them on demand. There's a few courses there that transfer over to the full-time seminary, but it's only for the first year of the program. Once someone gets into the second year and beyond, then it's like more cohort-based than like actual like individual course-based learning.
Jazakallah khair. Another question that's come up a couple of times is if you could clarify the relationship between part-time seminary and full-time, and does one prepare you for the other?
Good. So the part-time seminary was more designed for like people that are working full-time, where they don't really have time to dedicate a portion of their day every single day to studying. So they could study on the weekends part-time whenever they have the opportunity. And basically it's individualized courses, and each course is 10 weeks long, 2 hours every week. And if a person does the part-time seminary, there's a certain number of courses, I believe it's 11, which would be equivalent to the Islamic studies portion in the first year certificate. And then there's a whole nother aspect for Arabic to get the equivalency for the Arabic. So the difference is that the part-time moves a lot slower. Right? It moves a lot slower, and it's more doable for those that are too busy to be full-time students.
Jazakallah khair. I think that is all for our questions. If anyone else, if I didn't address any of your questions, please type them in right now. I'll give you a minute.
Also, for all the information regarding like the application and the tuition and all that fun stuff, just visit iokseminary.com. So iokseminary.com, and you will see all that information there on the website. And you can also go through and see kind of the courses and the books and the subjects that are studied throughout the entire program as well. So for more information regarding the program, just visit iokseminary.com. And if anyone has any further questions, you can always email myself as well, or email IOK, and I will respond as soon as I can, inshallah.
Okay, so I think that is it. Jazakallahu khair, everyone, for coming, and to our panelists as well. Again, feel free to email IOK if you have any questions. And we really hope this was beneficial. Jazakallahu khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you everyone for joining. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. May He accept all of our good deeds in this blessed month. May He accept our fast and our charity, our prayer, our recitation of the Quran, and any other good things we've done. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of you the tawfiq to become students of knowledge, inshallah. I highly, highly encourage everyone at the bare minimum to at least do the 1-year certificate with us. Right? That is something that is doable, and I feel that's something that every single student should have, inshallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Again, if you have more questions, just feel free to email and we'll answer. Thank you to all our wonderful students and panelists today for sharing their experiences and their thoughts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Very cool.